There's been a lot of talk about how this year's draft is one of the weakest. And I believe that those who make that claim base it off the fact that there is no projectable stars in this class. No prospects that scream all NBA talent. No clear-cut perennial all-star candidates. And it is true that this class on its face is nowhere near as top-heavy as others. But the depth of this class is insane. The amount of championship-level role players and prospects with sneaky star potential it's a lot. There's a lot of interesting prospects in this draft, whether it's the skill set they bring in day one, their potential, or even their landing spot in draft order, showing where the league is at with appraising talent and what they value the most today. Here are a couple of prospects that I find interesting. Let me know if y'all want a part 2. Out of the G League Ignite program, we have Tyler Smith. Standing at 6'9", 6'10", at around 224 pounds, and with a 7'1" wingspan, Smith is the modern hybrid big man, a tweener between small forward and center. Now, the first thing that pops off the screen when you watch him play is his offensive game. The jumper is clean, and it's one of those things that you project to be effective from day one. He has an amazing handle for his size. His go-to is this 1-2 pull-up midi that is cash. He's an extremely smooth shooter with good footwork, a quick release, and a buttery form. In G League play, he was hitting close to 40% of his threes on 4 attempts per game. Now with Smith, there isn't too much self-creation yet, but he's just a sniper on spot-ups and catch-and-shoot opportunities. The selling point with Smith is that his offensive floor is that of a lengthy, mobile stretch big, while optimistic projections have him as a jumbo-sized bucket getter in around 2 to 3 years. Now his size and mobility make him decent on the defensive side. Theoretically, he could hold his own against perimeter players, though I just haven't seen too much of that in G League play. They employed him almost exclusively in drop coverage, though he has the body to be that multi-positional defender with verticality, a long wingspan, quick and nimble on his feet. He isn't going to be your traditional rim protector due to his tweener frame, but he could easily excel as a roamer and off-ball swatter. The main knock with Smith is the mental aspect. There's too many times on defense where he looks completely lost. He sometimes freezes while defending the pick and rolls, not moving his feet or reacting to the ball. And aside from lacking strength, there's also a lack of aggressiveness when it comes to battling on the interior. But defense is not what you're going to be drafting him for. His length and agility gives him a decent floor on that side of the ball, but his offensive ceiling cannot be understated. At his apex, think of a Michael Porter Jr. with a better handle and possibly as a go-to offensive option. Or Jabari Smith with considerably less perimeter defense, but less stiff and more dynamic offense and isolation potential. If I'm a GM, I'm drafting Tyler Smith with the idea that he could be a supersized second or third option on a championship team. The next interesting player I want to highlight is Stephon Castle. Now, Castle is a player whose stock has been all over the place. Some people have him as high as the number 1 prospect in this year's draft, as the next great shot creating guard, while others see him as a final straw to getting a GM fired. As a 6'6", 210-pound combo guard, there's a universal understanding that he has a jack-of-all-trades skill set. He's elite as a disruptor and perimeter defender. He can smother smaller guards, but also has the size, strength, lateral quickness, and the will to defend bigger perimeter players. Offensively, Castle is willing and able to make the simple passes as a connected passer, with flashes of more expansive playmaking when given space and time. He produces relentless rim pressure, finishing strong through contact at an elite rate of around 63%. He consistently shows a natural feel for the game, attacking not with brute force or athleticism, but by controlling the tempo, chasing rhythm, deceleration, and body control. However, many people see him as a jack of all trades, but master of none. An attack with that top shelf athleticism because he doesn't have it. He doesn't have that out the gym burst that will allow him to more easily create space and get to the rim at the next level. Despite his insistence that he's a lead guard, there isn't much in his tape to support that idea. All of his passing chops and flashes, chin attacking closeouts, and things of that nature. His shot has also never been solid. Even at the high school level, defenders are more than happy to sag off and give him space on the perimeter. And he continues to shoot sub 30% in college. Most of these looks in college that we are talking about are generated by the scheme or by other players, which isn't necessarily a knock, but most of these shots are open spot-up opportunities. And often when projecting someone's shot making potential, you look at their free throw percentage. His 76% from the line is promising. As far as prospects who are bad shooters in college, his form isn't horrific as a starting point. Though once again, on the flip side, he's a complete zero as a pull-up threat from anywhere outside the restricted area. And he doesn't have the bounce to go over or through these sagging defenders, which severely limits his passing effectiveness in the half court. There's also too many times and cases where he doesn't display the consistent decision-making of a real floor general. Proponents of Castle, though, would say that perhaps we are too traditional in our understanding of what a point guard is. The traditional point guard who plays the floor general and has the exclusive responsibility to get their team into sets and initiate plays doesn't exist to the same extent as it has in the past. The Celtics just won the NBA Finals with 4 great secondary and tertiary playmakers, with Jrue Holiday technically being their point guard. Many teams have multiple players who can bring the ball up other than the point guard: Tatum, Banchero, even Wembanyama in San Antonio, LeBron, Jokic, and so forth. So a lot of the point guards today have more of a mixed role with more off-ball responsibilities in more dynamic offensive sets. And it's in this modern scheme, in this modern league, that Castle's versatility and skill set could be unmatched. The intriguing question with Castle will be how teams scout and appraise him come draft night. If he does put together his shot, his appraisal as a player changes completely. His potential becomes sky high as, at its height, a superstar shot creating guard, and even a step lower, a very effective hybrid between Malcolm Brogdon and Mikal Bridges. But if he doesn't, he will need the ball in his hands at all times to avoid being a black hole on the perimeter. And once again, GMs will be faced with the question of picking a player and praying and hoping that shot comes in, and believing that that shot will not ever come to fruition. Isaiah Collier was my favorite prospect heading into this season. He has unfortunately slid down a lot of mocks and big boards over the course of this season, with USC underperforming and some of his weakness being highlighted in the process. I liked him a lot for a number of reasons. In part because I myself have a similar archetype at my local LA Fitness, but also because Collier has, that NBA ready frame and athleticism with skill. In transition, his game opens up and his value becomes apparent. He's a barreling tank in transition, with great eyes for advantages that he helped create for dump offs and swing passes. However, he's a bit stiff as a lead guard, can't change direction as abruptly as other top guards, and has a wonky shot that really caused him to fall a bit. Collier also never really controlled the game to his pace in the half court, often being a touch out of control or a tad too fast. Depending where Collier goes, he most likely won't be playing the same sort of game in the NBA that he was at USC. What's interesting with Collier is the defensive side of the ball. Defensively, he's ready to be in the trenches day one. He has that aforementioned frame, he's not afraid to throw his weight around, he slides his feet well, and he's very attentive on that side of the ball. He may never be that traditional floor general due to his handle, shot, and lack of natural feel. However, if he leans into his defensive tools, he could be in that smart Holiday type of mold that quickly proves to be a needed commodity in this league who wins games. It will be interesting to see if he buys into such a role after being mocked as the #1 prospect since high school. The last person I'm going to touch on in this video is going to be Kel'el Ware. Ware is a supremely talented big man with prototypical size, length, and athleticism for the NBA center position. Standing at 7'1" with a 7'4" wingspan and a 36-inch vertical, I mean, he's an imposing presence with exceptional fluidity and coordination for his size. Like, he has all the tools necessary for him to impact the game on both ends on the floor. Now, Ware has a very unique statistical profile. On one hand, he's statistically very similar to Chet Holmgren in college, but he's also very statistically similar to Mo Bamba in college, and that is a shot blocking, floor spacing center. He averaged 42% from three-point range as a sophomore, albeit on limited attempts. He shows very promising shooting potential with very good form and touch, making him an effective catch-and-shoot player with legitimate NBA range. Now defensively, his calling card is being a rim protector. He's very light on his feet and can launch up vertically to deter shots. He's shown flashes of using his agility and fluidity to defend in space. Though a team may never fully be comfortable with him defending the perimeter in space. In theory, Ware is a strong rebounder, averaging 10 rebounds a game in college, and he has an impressive shot blocking ability, averaging almost 2 blocks a game. His athleticism combined with his size and length makes him a formidable defender and an explosive rim runner. I said in theory a couple of times with Ware because despite all the tools he possesses, the questions surrounding him are about his mentality and motor. Despite transferring to a program where he was set to be the offensive focus, he rarely pushed initiative and looked for his shots offensively. Far too much, his focus and awareness on the court were just non-existent. He often looked lethargic or uninterested in sliding over to help or track back with his man in transition. With Ware, there's just too many possessions where you question whether he just doesn't know what to do in a given situation or lacks that drive to make a consistent effort. I tend to be a little more optimistic and believe that he does have enough natural feel and for whatever reason just can't be bothered sometimes during his collegiate career. Not only did him and Lively come into college at the same time, they both have an almost identical prospective profile. Derek Lively experienced a lot of success with Dallas his rookie year as an athletic rim runner, which also happened to be the exact profile that a player like Luka Doncic needed. Defensively, Lively covered a lot of ground as well, shrinking the floor with long strides, and instantly made Dallas a much more formidable interior force. He also had long arms to hold his own on perimeter switches. Ware is just as talented overall. What he lacks in comparison to Lively defensively, he makes up with his offensive floor spacing potential. The biggest difference though between them is that nobody ever questions Lively motor or mentality or attentiveness on the court. With Ware, it's going to be very interesting. Could really be a case of situation and environment that unlocks his potential. If he goes to the team with the right framework and development to get him to buy in, he has all the potentials to be the steal of this draft. And that is all I have for y'all today. If you made it to the end of the video, comment down below some interesting prospects you have on your radar. I might make a part 2 to this. And consider liking and subscribing, and you have a fantastic week, day, year, life.